Have you ever stopped to think that maybe getting rich quick is less about money and more about everything you haven't yet dared to confront within yourself? What if I told you that some of the wealthiest people in the world started from scratch, literally from nothing, and that the difference between them and you isn't in their bank account, but in something you do every single day without even realizing it, something that's holding you back? Now think fast. How many times have you crunched numbers in your head, imagining how much would be left at the end of the month, only to finish it with less than you expected? Is that a coincidence or a pattern? Today, I'm going to show you a step-by-step method to get rich from nothing, based on the 3 most crucial pillars revealed in the transcript. But be warned, some of what you hear might make you uncomfortable. And that discomfort is precisely where your next life-changing breakthrough lies. When we talk about getting rich from zero, most people automatically think about earning more money. When in reality, the first step has nothing to do with how much flows into your wallet, but with what your mind does with the little you already possess. It's fascinating to observe how so many intelligent, creative, and potential-filled individuals remain trapped in the same cycle, month after month, year after year, as if they're stuck on a treadmill. Have you ever felt that? That sensation of working, yet still checking your bank statement and not understanding where the money went? That's not bad luck. That's a mental pattern. There's a very common behavior. People look at someone wealthy and say, they just got lucky, but they never look inward to realize how much of their own choices are guided by old ideas, inherited beliefs, and unresolved fears. And what's even more striking, these beliefs shape decisions without us even noticing. Economic psychology has already demonstrated that when someone believes they'll never get rich, their brain literally reduces motivation to seek opportunities. In other words, even before trying, the person gives up. How can you compete with that? How can you build something great if, internally, you're constantly diminishing yourself? This is precisely where everything begins to shift. Because when you understand that wealth isn't born in your pocket, but in your mindset, you start to realize how much your daily choices have been shaped by your fears. Fear of taking risks, fear of losing, fear of looking foolish, fear of not knowing enough, fear of trying and failing. And what's most intriguing is that these fears are the same ones most people feel. Have you noticed that nearly everyone is afraid to invest because they think they'll lose money? Or that thousands are too ashamed to charge more for their own work because they believe no one will pay? These fears are so pervasive they seem like part of our personality. But in truth, they are the invisible chains holding back the financial lives of millions. And this becomes even more apparent when you start asking yourself honest questions. For example, how many times have you passed up an opportunity because you thought you weren't capable? How many times have you sabotaged yourself before even trying? How many times was your decision guided not by potential gain, but by the trauma of past losses? It's impossible to grow without confronting these questions. The truth is, your first $1 million comes from the courage to face your own fears. Because, in the end, what separates those who evolve from those who stay stuck isn't intelligence. It isn't a degree. It isn't a wealthy family. It's mindset. And when we talk about mindset, we're not talking about thinking positive. We're talking about taking genuine responsibility for every single choice. This means looking at an expense and asking, does this bring me closer to the future I desire, or does it trap me in the present I despise? It means letting go of that automatic urge for instant gratification and starting to see the long game. It means questioning whether you truly need to upgrade your phone every single year, whether that expensive car is a priority, or if you're just trying to fill an emotional void with installment payments. And this isn't judgment, it's awareness. Most people don't realize they live on autopilot, consuming things that only drain their energy and money. But once you start questioning, everything changes. And this shift becomes even clearer when we look at the life of someone who, despite facing absurd difficulties, turned their life around precisely because they decided to change their way of thinking. Oprah's story is a powerful example of this. Imagine growing up in extreme conditions, without support, without prospects, enduring situations that would emotionally devastate anyone. Yet, she understood something almost no one else does. The environment you're born into influences, but does not define your financial destiny. She chose to think differently, and it was that choice that lifted her out of poverty and led her to build a net worth of billions of dollars, not by magic, not by luck, but because she decided she wouldn't be a prisoner of her past and acted like someone who believed in her own future. And if you observe ordinary people who have prospered, you'll see the same pattern. The process doesn't begin when they earn more. It starts when they change their relationship with money. It's like adjusting the angle of an arrow. A small shift at the beginning creates an enormous impact at the end. The same happens with your mindset. When you change the way you think, you change the way you act. When you change the way you act, you change the results. And when you change the results, you change your life. To put this into practice, there's a simple yet incredibly powerful exercise. For an entire week, jot down every thought, feeling, and decision related to money. No filter, no trying to appear disciplined, just record it. Within a few days, you'll start to see what's truly holding you back. Fear of investing, guilt about earning, procrastination, emotional impulses, old beliefs like, money is hard to come by, I'll never succeed, I have no control. It's impossible to change something you don't see, but once you see it, you can transform it. And then the most important question arises. If mindset is the foundation of wealth, how do you expect to build something great while maintaining the same structure that has kept you in the same place for so many years? That's the crux of it. Wealth isn't a prize for a select few. It's a consequence of the internal choices you make before any external action. When you change the way you think, you stop being a spectator of your own life and become its author. And when that happens, money finally starts to respond. When we start talking about financial planning, many people feel an instant discomfort, as if numbers were some kind of threat. And this happens because most people were never taught to see money as a tool. They always saw money as something distant, difficult, almost magical. But the truth is, wealth is mathematics. And when you start turning dreams into numbers, everything changes. Most people run from this moment because they fear what they'll discover. Have you ever been afraid to look at your credit card statement? Or avoided opening your banking app because you imagined the situation was worse than it actually was? This fear is more common than it seems, and it's precisely what prevents millions of people from building wealth. The central point here is clarity. There is no wealth without clarity. It's impossible to reach your first $1 million if you don't even know the shortest path to get there. The reference file made something very clear. It's not enough to say, I want to get rich. You need to define how. And that how inevitably involves simple calculations. Yet, most people never do them. And when you ask, how much do you want to earn in the next 2 years? Many don't even know how to answer. If a person doesn't know their target, how can they adjust their aim? And when you finally lay the numbers out on the table, you realize they are far more achievable than you imagined. The human brain tends to think of 1 million as something almost unattainable, but when you break that number down, it starts to fit into your reality. For example, if you have a project, a product, a service, anything that can be sold, you don't need thousands of complex strategies. Just calculate. A product priced at $20 sold to 50,000 people generates $1 million. But if you increase the price to $40, you only need 25,000 people. These numbers stop feeling overwhelming when you understand that the internet has opened doors that didn't exist before. Today, you can sell to anyone in the world. Today, there are marketplaces, social media, and ads that reach thousands of people in 24 hours. It has never been as possible to earn money as it is now. Yet still, many don't try because they never did the basic math. That's why so many people make the same mistake, living an entire lifetime earning well, yet still losing everything due to a lack of planning. And when you look at well-known cases, this becomes clearer than ever. The example of Adriano Imperador is one of the most striking. A millionaire athlete with massive contracts, fame, opportunities. Yet a large part of his wealth vanished because there was no solid financial plan. This reveals something few people like to admit. Earning money doesn't protect you from losing money. What protects you is strategy. And this lack of strategy doesn't just happen to celebrities. It happens to millions of ordinary people every year. The 2008 crisis in the United States is proof of this. People who earned well, had good jobs, nice cars, good homes, but lived without savings, without control, without planning. When the economy collapsed, thousands lost homes worth from $200,000 to $300,000, often because they didn't even have 3 months of financial security. The fall was brutal and unexpected for those who believed everything was fine. But looking from the outside, it was clear. There was no structure. And without structure, any strong wind can bring things crashing down. And perhaps that's the most crucial point. When you grasp that planning isn't just bureaucracy, but protection, everything shifts. Planning doesn't mean living in fear. It means building freedom. It means knowing exactly how much you need to earn, how much you need to save, how many clients you need to serve, what product you need to sell, how much to invest in advertising, and what timeline is realistic. It's like turning on the light in a dark room. The danger doesn't vanish, but you can finally see where you're stepping. Behavioral finance science shows that people who set clear goals are 42% more likely to achieve them. And when those goals are written down, that number nearly doubles. It's no coincidence. It's like telling your brain, this matters. It then starts seeking out opportunities you didn't even notice before. Suddenly, ideas begin to emerge, connections start making sense, and paths that once seemed impossible begin to feel natural. And to put this into practice, there's an incredibly powerful exercise, simple yet transformative. Grab a sheet of paper and answer 4 questions. How much do I want to earn this year? How much does that translate to per month? How many people do I need to reach? And what is the price of my product or service? When you answer these questions, you transform an abstract dream into a concrete map. And with a map in hand, any path becomes clearer. But here's where the decisive moment happens. You only truly grasp the real size of your goal when you write down the numbers. Many people discover they're closer than they imagined. Others realize they're far off. But for the first time, they see the path to get there. And that lifts an enormous weight off their shoulders. Because you stop walking in the dark and start moving with direction. And living with direction is one of the quickest ways to build wealth. Deep down, it all comes down to this. Those who plan get rich. Those who don't plan merely try to survive. Planning is when you stop being a spectator and become the author of your own financial journey. And when you embrace that role, you realize that the first million isn't a distant dream anymore. It's a calculation. And calculations, unlike luck, you control. When we talk about transforming an idea into real money, there's a point most people prefer to ignore because it's uncomfortable to admit. Almost no one acts. Everyone thinks, imagines, dreams, plans, but when it's time to actually do, they freeze. It's almost as if ideas are too perfect to be brought into the real world. And when you observe this behavior in others, you quickly realize the fear isn't of failure. The fear is of exposure. It's the fear of trying and not knowing what to do. Fear of judgment. Fear of discovering you weren't ready. But what few realize is that this very fear is what prevents millions of people from getting rich. It's even curious to see how this works in practice. Someone has a great idea in the shower, gets excited, envisions the future, even feels that good energy, and then, puts it off until later. Maybe you've experienced something similar. You thought of a business, did a little research, watched videos, crunched some numbers, even mentioned it to someone, but when it came time to execute, something inside you said, "Not now." And that "not now" can cost you years of your life. And the most interesting thing is that this happens not because the person is lazy, but because they've been trained since childhood to avoid risks. But avoiding too much risk is costly. It costs time. It costs opportunity. It costs money. And when we look at people who have truly achieved great results, we notice a striking pattern. They act before they feel ready. They don't wait to have everything organized. They don't wait for the best version of the product. They don't wait for the economy to improve. They don't wait for others' approval. They just do. A classic example of this is Jeff Bezos. He didn't start Amazon with a massive structure, with a huge team, with billionaire investors. He started in a garage, selling books, using a makeshift desk. He didn't wait for the perfect scenario. He created momentum. And momentum creates opportunity. This is the point almost no one understands. Action generates clarity. It's not clarity that generates action. Many people are just waiting to understand everything before they start, but they never begin because they'll never understand everything. It's like driving at night. You only see a few feet ahead, but it's enough to reach your destination. The problem is that people want to see the entire road before they even start the engine. And when you observe real, everyday stories, it becomes even clearer how action can change an ordinary person's life. The case of Edson, the former homeless man from São Paulo, is one of the most moving in this regard. He didn't wait to gain experience. He didn't wait to have capital. He didn't wait to get an education. He started by selling candies for pennies. A short time later, he saved enough to buy a hot dog cart. And from one cart came another, and then another. And before they knew it, his business was employing people, already earning thousands of dollars per month, all because he took the action most people avoid. He started. And this story resonates with us because it shows that action has power, even when everything is stacked against you. And if it works like that for someone who literally had nothing, imagine what it can do for someone who already has access to the internet, knowledge, time, and opportunity. It's impossible to talk about action without talking about discipline. And here's a detail that separates those who try from those who achieve: consistency. Many people act once, twice, but stop when they don't see immediate results. They want life to change overnight. But the truth is that big changes are built through small movements. Have you noticed how your life changes when you do something simple every day? Read a few pages. Save a few dollars. Create one piece of content a day. Prospect one client at a time. These small actions, when repeated, create gigantic effects. And there's something that can help you break this cycle of stagnation. Turning action into a public commitment. Something psychology calls external accountability. If you tell yourself, "I'll start tomorrow," you feel no pressure to follow through. But if you tell someone or write it down and make it visible in your environment, you create a micro-emotional commitment. And these small commitments have far more power than they seem. To put this into practice, there's a simple, yet extremely powerful question that can completely change your relationship with your ideas. What can I do in the next 48 hours that will turn my idea into motion? It could be creating a simple page, sending a message to a potential client, building a basic prototype, posting something about your service, recording a video, launching a minimum viable product. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, it shouldn't be perfect. Perfection paralyzes. Progress liberates. And perhaps the most crucial moment in this shift is understanding that action isn't the absence of fear. Action is making a decision even when you're afraid. Everyone who is successful today felt fear at the beginning. The difference is, they didn't let fear paralyze them. It's a thin line between those who hide and those who execute. And that line, most of the time, is a choice, not a destiny. And here's a necessary pattern interrupt. If you do absolutely nothing today, what in your life will change tomorrow? If the answer is nothing, then you already know why you're stagnant. This stings a little, but at the same time, it liberates. Because it means change depends on one single thing: action. In the end, it all comes down to this. Ideas are free. Execution is wealth. Action is what transforms thought into reality, fear into courage, dreams into assets. And when you get into motion, even if it's small, life responds. Always. When you act, the world makes way. And it's precisely this movement that separates ordinary people from extraordinary people. Because no one gets rich by dreaming. People get rich by acting. And the question remains, will you wait until you're ready? Or will you start today? And as you reflect on all of this and start imagining how these changes can transform your life in the coming months, do one thing that can amplify this impact even further. Share this video with someone special. It could be a friend, a family member, someone you know needs to hear exactly this today. Sometimes one single conversation changes an entire destiny, and you could be responsible for that in someone's life. Thank you so much for being here with me. If this content helped you in any way, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to keep receiving videos that can truly change your financial path. I'll see you in the next video.